Hello, Sophie. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Very good. Thank you. Thank you again for accepting this invitation for this interview. I'm really glad because I follow you on Instagram and I really love your content. It's very useful for French learners and people who want to see the life in Paris.
Thank you a lot for the invitation. I'm honored and thank you for supporting and following me. And thank you also for your content, which is really helpful for all the people who want to broaden their vocabulary. It is also like your page is also really resourceful.
Thank you. So today we will talk about your French learning journey and also about your life in Paris. But first, can you tell us a bit about yourself? What brought you to Paris?
I'm a French learner and also a content creator based in Paris. However, I was born and raised in Poland. And yeah, I came to Paris in the middle of March. It was this year, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
been only 6 months.
Oh,
And I created an Instagram account, and it was supposed to be in my diary. However, it's just like people started following, and yeah, here I am today. And what brought me to Paris? It's an interesting question, because I think that it was growing in me for a long time. It all started when I was actually 5 years old.
oh,
I
wow.
was always telling my mom, in the future, I'm gonna live abroad. But I never said where. I was like, for sure, I will be abroad. And then in middle school, by accident, by coincidence, honestly, I started learning French because my principal added me to the wrong group, wrong language group, and she couldn't change it later. Um, so yeah, I started learning French, started getting to know French culture and French cuisine more. And of course, Paris was always mentioned because it's a capital city of France. So I also get to know Paris. Then I also wanted to get into business school in Poland, and it was easier when I had French finals. So I restarted learning French again to prepare to finals back in Poland. And then also I decided to just pass DELF exam.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, later I realized that, okay, well, I have this DELF certificate. However, I don't feel as if I'm fluent in French. And I also don't feel as if I was immersed enough in the language and in the culture. So yeah, I decided that in March it was the moment to come.
Okay, I didn't know it was too recent. I was thinking that you were in Paris for years. So
No, no, it's really new. I'm really new. I'm really like fresh here in Paris. It's quite recent.
okay. And it was the first time you went to Paris? Or
Yeah, it
you...
was it was the first time.
Okay, okay, great. And how was your experience when you first arrived in Paris? Did you face any particular challenge as an expatriate?
Well, for sure, my challenges was to. I had two main challenges. Those
Okay.
were really funny at the beginning. Finding peanut butter, which is good, and
Okay.
this and the second one, finding my way out of Châtelet metro
Okay.
station. But okay, jokes aside, for sure, language barrier was a huge challenge
Mm.
in the beginning because, of course, I had the Delphi exam and I started learning 8 years ago, so it's a lot of time.
So
Yeah,
what
and
was your level in when you were in France, just to situate?
well, it was B2.
Okay, that's nice. That's very
Yeah,
nice.
so it was supposed to be it was supposed to like be nice, and I was convinced that I can speak and that I can understand. However, when I arrived, I realized that French at school and French for DELF exam, it's not really the French that people speak here in France.
Oh. Mm.
So the speed was crazy, and also all the words which are considered as slang or argot or like verlan, and also like for me it's like joining the words together, and sometimes the sentence it is made out of 5 words. However, it sounds just like a one long word because everything is glued
Yeah.
to each other. Mm. And also the thing is that I'm a really talkative person. I love to talk. I love random conversations on the street.
Mhm.
However, when I came, I was around people and I possibly could communicate with them. However, I felt like I was separated by a wall because I didn't really
Yeah.
speak the language. So it was like I felt so closed and not like myself, honestly. So it was really challenging in the beginning.
Yeah.
Even talking with the baker or with the cashier in the shop, it was almost impossible because I didn't know what to say, and I also did not expect people to chat with me in English right away because I mean, yeah, we're in France, we speak French, not English.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah, I understand. And yeah, the difference between the French you learn at school and the real French, it's huge. And that's why I try to teach French that we really using in Paris or in France. But yeah, but it's nice. I saw that you're recording yourself when you are at the bakery or something, and you're posting on your Instagram in speaking French, and it's really useful for French learners.
Yeah, because those are the conversations and those are the moments that learners don't really experience or don't really see. There is a lot of materials in books that is really artificial and made only to prepare people for the exams. And there is a lot of content, like there's a lot of movies and a lot of documentaries. However, the level of language in those is really advanced. And there are also teachers who teach on YouTube or on Instagram, as you do. But there was like a lack of those people who are learning and are living abroad, so are actually practicing the language. So yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah,
And
that's
also
really great.
I'm seeing the progress when I look at my videos. So I'm really glad.
Yeah,
I'm really
sure.
glad that I started doing that.
Yeah, because yeah, I always advise to recording yourself when you're starting to learn a language or French, and after you're recording yourself like few months, and it's really great to see the improvements. Yeah, that's great.
And also back to the challenges that I faced when I came to Paris. Also, not being able to understand what's going on around me. I had to put a lot of effort to actually understand. So all of the people who were passing by me and talking, or kids just screaming something, or just people sitting next to me, next to the table in the coffee shop or in the restaurant, it is always like sitting and looking for those words and catching. Is something happening? Should I be careful with something, or should I just walk because people are just chatting? So it's like a lot of things, like it feels like missing out on so many things just because I don't understand the words, or I understand the words, however I can't put them into context and get the meaning and get the idea of the sentence or of the speech.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It can be really tired at the end of the day. Your head is like very big.
And I'm also not a native English speaker, so my brain was just floating between three languages every evening in the beginning. So for the first month, I was so exhausted every evening just because I had to communicate and talk. But now it's getting better.
Yeah, I think you have like months of adaptation before your brain starting to relax. I think, yeah, okay. And is there something difficult about adapting to life in Paris as a Polish? The culture is very different, or it was pretty easy?
I would say that it was pretty easy, but there were some teeny tiny minor things that were different. For example, but it was not anything like really huge, big, and challenging. However, shops, for example, grocery stores, or in general shops, coffee shops, they open later than they do in Poland, and they close earlier. So sometimes I went somewhere in the morning and I wanted to buy something and the shop was closed. So yeah. Another thing, you can't buy drugs, I mean medicine, in supermarkets.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so
You can in Polish, I didn't know.
only the basic ones, of course, like painkillers. However, yeah, we can do that. Just go in the supermarket and get those. That's another thing. And for sure, restaurants which are closed in the middle of the day, some of them. So it actually happened when I wanted to get a reservation for a table, and I was asking for 6 p.m. I think it was, but the waitress said that they open at 7, and I was a bit confused.
Yeah, but don't worry, I have the same problem. I think it's general problem in France.
Yeah, and it was really surprising for me in Poland when the restaurant opens, like for example at 12 or at 1 p.m. it stays open for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. But
Yeah,
here it's just a break in the middle of the day.
yeah, but sometimes it's difficult that you want to call to book a table in the evening and it's closed and it's too late. So yeah, I found it weird too, but I'm French, but yeah, it's the
And
culture here.
for sure, when it comes to meals during the day, it also
Mhm.
looks differently in case of the French than the Polish ones. In France, I would say that you eat more later during the day, and we
Okay.
eat more in the first half of the day. I would say, at least in my case, it is like that. We usually start with big breakfast. So when the French, or well, yeah, when the French see my breakfast, they are like, it's a bit disgusting, but enjoy your meal. Because here the breakfast is usually something small and something
Yeah.
sweet, I would say. But in my case, it's a savory breakfast with eggs and avocado and yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
protein.
but I think it's better for health to eat like eggs and proteins in the morning. But yeah, in French culture, it's more like just sometimes nothing, just a coffee, or sometimes just a little bit of bread and maybe cereals. But it's really simple, yeah, I know.
Yeah, and also lunch is a big thing here, I would say. Like actually people go to restaurants. It doesn't happen that much in Poland. And we
Okay.
eat dinner way earlier than you do. So yeah, the meals are just put differently. This like the food is distributed differently during the day, I would say.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And what helped you the most in settling into French culture and life in Paris?
I would say that for sure going outside and observing people,
Mm-hmm.
just observing how they walk fast, how they talk, what they do in the morning, what they do during the afternoon, what they do in the evening, um, what they wear. Yeah, that's exact. That's just observing how they go through their days. That was,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, the thing that helped me a lot. Also, asking questions like
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing this like that, why are you rushing so much, or yeah, why you are not eating your breakfast. So yeah, asking for sure, and also looking up for some information on the internet or Instagram, or just say googling information. But this, well, we should double check it every time, because there's also a lot of stereotypes which are not really true, and also sometimes it depends on the region.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I would say observing was the first thing that I did, because I actually had a chance to go out and watch people. So yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
immerse myself.
Yeah, you're right, because life in Paris is not the same in Marseille, in Lyon. So sometimes just to watch people and ask them questions is a good way to learn. Okay. And so you said you learned French before arrived to Paris, and you are you have a little bit shocked about the difference between French you learned and the French that we really speak. So what did you do? Did you relearn French, or did you work on something specially to adapt your French to Paris?
So the thing is that I studied at school. It was in middle school, so it was 3 years of really old-fashioned way of
Mm,
learning. So notebook, pen, grammar, a
yeah.
list of vocabulary, and just cramming over it and learning everything by heart. Then during high school, I didn't really put that much effort and attention to French. So the French was still somewhere there, but I was not really using it. Was not a priority. Then I restarted learning by myself, but again, I focused more on grammar and vocabulary, and I put listening and speaking aside.
Okay.
But then when I came, I realized that all of those grammar rules and all of those conditionnel, subjunctive, all of that, okay, I may know that, how to use that on paper. However, I cannot build a 5 sentence opinion about something in the present tense.
Okay.
Well, for sure, I noticed that I really didn't pay attention to all linguistic competences. I focused
Mhm.
on writing and, let's say, on vocabulary grammar, but I really forgot and ignored speaking and listening. So and I really underestimated the power of listening when it comes
Yeah.
to language learning. I noticed it when I was preparing myself to the Delphi exam. I started listening to one podcast which was for French learners, so it was simpler and it was just the pace of speaking was slower. And also the guy, he's got like the list of words that were in this podcast, so it was just really nice to start. But then I was like, okay, maybe I can challenge myself more. And so I found podcasts that are about things that interest me in real life.
Yeah.
And I started listening. In the beginning, it was a total disaster because usually I listen when I'm walking. However, my brain was so occupied, was so busy trying to understand the French podcast that I couldn't walk at the same time because I just felt that I can just cross the road on the red light or something. So it was just not safe. And also after like 3 to 5 minutes, my brain was like, no, it's enough. We reached the limit. And it was just shutting down. I was listening, but I was hearing, but I was not listening.
Yeah.
So yeah, but after some time, I noticed that I can multitask. So I could listen and walk or do something else. And then I started understanding and also remembering. So the beginning is really tough. However, then the brain adapts. And after a month, I was listening almost every day, and not like for 2 hours straight. It's not necessary to listen for 2 hours straight. It's I would say that it's enough to actually do it for 10-15 minutes, but do it regularly. And I noticed that it is easier for me to know the articles of the words, and I knew, for example, the order of COD and COD and COE. Yes. So I just got the idea, and also conjugation was way easier when I was listening to the podcast. And the best thing that was happening it was when I learned the word and then I heard it in a podcast. I was so excited every time when it happened.
Oh, I know it. You did really well because the power of listening is incredible. And because instead of learning, it's really good to learn grammar, but you have to learn grammar in the communication goal. Like, okay, I know to use subjunctive, but do you know how to do a sentence in subjunctive? When, at which moment you can use the subjunctive or something like that? And the power of listening, you will have, it's just like input and in-out. Like you listen a lot and it will be, it takes times, like you said, but at the end of the day, you will start to make sentence in French and it will come naturally. So it takes times, but it's really, really, really useful. And like you did, you have to stay motivated to listen even if you don't understand anything.
Yeah.
You have to be persistent and that's really great. You did great. That's nice.
Honestly, thank you. And honestly, the thing that I chose the podcast and the videos that I liked the topic was helping a lot to stick to it. Because if I like the topic and if I like the way the person described it, I was more it was more possible to stick to it and come back to it every day or every 2 days.
Yeah, that's really important because if you force yourself to listen something that you think it's boring or it didn't interest you, you will let it go and you will don't give it a try. So it's really nice. It's really a good method to improve. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. And did you learn French or improve your French by living in Paris? Did you have some method or strategy to help you with your French?
I would say that for sure I improved when it comes to French and when it comes to my confidence in speaking French when I came to Paris. However, I need to admit that sometimes I use the fact that people also speak English here. So I feel that I should force myself more to actually start a conversation. Not sometimes I start a conversation with a question, parlez-vous anglais? So I mean, it's not the best start of the conversation. for my progress, of course. Yeah, I would say that I would improve for sure. I would improve more in a small village in France where nobody
people
French,
don't speak
because I would be forced, because if I don't talk, I will just explode. But yeah, for sure. And also, what I wanted to say, I improved in Paris. However, well, there is also still a lot of things to do, and there is a lot of room for improvement. And I would say that I should try maybe to be more relaxed when I'm trying to speak, and more maybe not chatty, however, more open.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I start a conversation somewhere, I'm just trying to keep it as short as possible.
Yeah.
Just not to run out of words. So yeah, there is.
Don't tell me about politics in French, please. Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's really hard. But you did great. Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah. And do you think that your French really improved by living in Paris, or it's really the work you did at home with listening podcasts, or what do you think? Because sometimes people say, "Oh, I will live in Paris and I will speak French like a native," and you're up in Paris and you don't speak French as a native because reality faces you.
Well, honestly, of course, it helps to live in a country and in a city where you speak the language that you are trying to learn. However, without working on your own, it's not like you are walking on the streets in Paris and the French just sticks to you and you are French. No, unfortunately, you don't absorb French from the ground and from the buildings and from the surrounding. Yeah, I still had to work on my own. I still have to continue working on my own to progress. And also to have more advanced conversations. I can't just step in and start having a more advanced conversation. I had to prepare to this conversation beforehand. So without spending the time at home and without listening podcasts and without putting the effort, it won't just happen. I know people actually who moved to Paris like 2 years ago, and when I asked them, so you speak French then, yeah? And they're like, well, not really.
But yeah.
So it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Of course, it helps. However, it's not like living in Paris is not equivalent of having a great level of French and speaking French.
Yeah, that's why I asked this question, because I noticed the same for my students, that they live in France, but it doesn't mean that you will speak French in a few days or weeks. And sometimes you will have some conversation in French, but really basic, like in the bakery or in the shop. And sometimes you have to go further to have more advanced conversation, and it's hard because you cannot talk with French like, hey, can we talk about philosophy? So yeah, yeah, I know that the reality it's not the same that we imagined. Okay. You were talking about confidence. Do you have tips for feeling more confident speaking French and with French native in Paris, where people can be very direct?
Honestly, I've been here for 6 months and nobody has never been rude. So I would say that it's really a stereotype, or maybe I'm just lucky.
Maybe. It will be winter, so in summer people are really nice. Maybe winter it will change.
So every time when I try to speak or when I make the effort, people are like, "Oh, you speak very well. Where are you from? Oh, that's so great that you started learning. That's so great that you are trying to speak our language." So it was really supportive as for the past 6 months. And honestly, I noticed that in my case, mindset and my body language made a huge change. The thing is that as I said, I started learning back in school. So at school, well, there is a huge fear of being judged, and you're actually getting your marks and notes. And you are not really encouraged to make mistakes to learn.
Yeah.
You're just encouraged to learn everything by heart and then pass your exams to get great results at the end. So I had to sit with myself and be like, okay, you were at school, but you are no longer at school. This is a real person, native speaker. And well, you will make a lot of mistakes, but then someone will correct them. Maybe someone will not correct them, but it's okay. And nothing's going to happen. Like nothing. You just made a mistake and you were courageous and brave enough to speak a foreign language. So, well, I needed to like sit. I sat with myself and just started like thinking, where is this fear of speaking a foreign language coming from? And in my case, it was just school.
That's so true, yeah.
And to all language learners, French learners, all of you, you should be brave that you actually started learning a language at some point in your life. You decided that you are starting from a 1-year-old baby level because you know nothing. You decided to do this mundane job to start understanding and reading and writing and speaking. So I would say that it takes a lot of time, courage and patience and effort, and sacrifices sometimes. So yeah, we should be brave, not ashamed.
Yeah, you're so right. It's just the fear of making mistakes. It's like, yeah, we're living in school and it's so bad for us and our mindset, but you did right, and it's so hard to change your mindset because you're programmed like this since you're a child. And yeah, but it's so helpful. And yeah, if you make a mistake, no one will judge you, or maybe it will be a little bit funny, but not you will not die by making a mistake.
Yes,
So
and
yeah.
also the fact is that I started thinking, do I make mistakes in my native language? And oh yeah, of course I do a lot. I make a lot of them. So why am I not allowing myself to make mistakes in a foreign language, which I started learning like when I was 13, not 1-year-old. So
Yeah, that's right.
so it also really helped me. And also the French, you also make mistakes. It's also
Of
your native
course, a
language.
lot.
Some people don't know the grammar rules, or you're just confused with your own language. Yeah.
Ask someone in the street in France to conjugate a verb in subjunctive and say, c'est quoi le subjonctif? They don't know what is it. They use it, but they don't know what is it. So yeah, you're so right. That's right.
And in the beginning, I also noticed when it comes to body language that I was like hiding a little bit. Like my shoulders came to my ears and my arms were a bit like that. So I noticed that, well, I'm not sending the information to my brain that we are confident. So I started also working on being more relaxed and also breathing, because sometimes I noticed that when I try to speak, I'm just so squeezed inside and so tense that I just, my whole body is stressed, so I can't be confident at that moment.
It's a really good advice because breathing in French pronunciation is really important. And sometimes when you're stressed and you want to say your sentence really quickly, and the pronunciation is bad because you say it quickly. So take the time to relax and to talk more slower, and it will be really helpful for French pronunciation. Yeah. So did you? I know that it's like few months that you are in France, but the fact that you speak French, did give you opportunities for you? In work or in personal life or
Yeah, of course, it did. For example, once I was recording a video. It was a bit, it was not in the beginning, it was after, I think, 3 or 4 months. I was on the streets, and it was the moment when I was like more confident and more open to start a conversation. And yeah, I was just, okay, now is the moment when I feel, let's say, safe with my level of French. So I was recording on the street, and like old woman was passing by, and she was looking at me because I was talking on my phone or something. Well, I looked at her and I said bonjour, and we started chatting, and it was a really cool and wholesome moment because I actually felt as like a part of Paris. And yeah, it was great. And she also complimented my French, so it was really lovely.
oh, that's nice.
What else? Oh, another situation. Once I was walking behind dad and his son, I suppose, and they were talking about something, and I understood the conversation. So I was eavesdropping, I admit. However, I was so happy that I understood something that was going on around me. So that was for sure. I felt more like at home because
Mhm.
I could actually understand the surrounding.
Yeah, that's really great. That's a big achievement. Okay. And lastly, do you have advice for someone who want to considering an expatriation to Paris in learning or in living in Paris? Did you have advice?
Living in Paris, buy an umbrella.
Yeah,
That's for
sure.
sure.
First,
In
un parapluie.
um, I would say that give yourself time to explore
Mhm,
Paris. The first
mhm.
month, I was rushing all the
Yeah.
time to see everything because everything was so beautiful and everything was so new and everything was so exciting. And also, I had the bucket list of things that I wanted to see and do. So, but later, I noticed that maybe it's actually better to slow down and just have a 1 hour walk and just admire and observe the surrounding.
Mm,
So for sure, you have time to visit everything. That's what I would say. And also, life in Paris can get really tiring. Like the city is really
mm,
vivid and it lives, and the pace of living is really fast. So
yeah.
after 2 months, I noticed that I'm just so exhausted,
Mm,
and I also felt a bit guilty when I was not exploring the city,
mm,
because everything was so new. So
yeah.
try to, since the very beginning, try to find the balance between
Yeah.
exploring, but also between resting and
Mm,
having like a normal life, not like, because when you live abroad, in the beginning you behave as a tourist, but then you notice that it's actually your place of living. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
switch the mode in your head after some time.
It's a really good advice. Or you can go in the park in Paris and resting, and while you're exploring the park, it can
Yeah,
be.
and also maybe not now, but now it's also possible now. But during spring and summer, coffee on terrace or just
Mm,
meal on terrace, it's something. And I would also say that's all about like the French culture. It's about enjoying life, not rushing through life.
yeah,
So
that's
it
really
is
important.
also like important to remember that when you move here. And when it comes to language learning, well, for sure, work on your all linguistic competences, so you won't end up as me, knowing subjunctive on paper and not knowing how to order coffee in a coffee shop. So that's for sure. And also try to. A lot of people say that I don't have time for this. You don't always need that much more time for this. Sometimes you just have to be more strategic. Like for example, when you like walking and listening to a podcast, listen to a French one, maybe not for your whole walk, but maybe for a bit. Or also when you like writing, journaling, then try to add some French words, not whole sentences, because
Mhm.
it might be really challenging. However, some
Yeah.
little parts. And also, once I started reading news, well, I'm not really a fan of reading news because there is a lot of negative
Yeah, sure.
energy and information. However, it also helps me, and every day you get a new dose or news of news, and also the articles are usually quite short. So, well, like find a way to put French into your daily life, like analyze your daily schedule and analyze your routine and think what you can do in French
Yeah.
instead of doing it in your native language.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and yeah, it's really perfect if you use content that you like in French and like not quantity but just regularity, consistency. It's really important to learn French. Thank you, Sophie, for this interview. It was really nice, really useful. Can you share with us where we can find you? On I know in Instagram. Do you have other social media where we can follow you?
Thank you once again for inviting me. It was an honor. Well, my main account is on Instagram, so you can find me there. I also have a YouTube account. However, I plan to grow it and to post
Okay.
long form content in the future. And also, I have an account on TikTok. However, the Instagram is the main one.
Okay, great. I will put the link in the description for the viewers to follow you. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sophie. It was really, really nice, and I wish you good luck and happy experience in Paris.
Thank you a lot.
Bye, à bientôt.
Bye.